Here we are, rounding out the year with all of the greats and all of the... During the year, especially towards the end of it, I try to watch near every horror movie that's been released. In such a grand task, one comes close to watching near 100 horror movies. Doing all of this just to keep you, my babies, informed of what to watch and what not to watch, but also to find the best horror movie of the year.
And we will stop at nothing to possess it.
But categorizing movies as just the worst and the best leaves a lot of movies not discussed, or just unjustly thrown in with the greats or the shits. Which leads me to what I shall be diving into today. The most overrated horror movies of 2024. Overrated doesn't mean I am going out of my way to shoot diarrhea all over the more popular movies for the sake of rage baiting. Fun though that idea may be, overrated will either be middle of the road movies that have ratings that I personally think are a bit too high than what the movie deserves, or it's a middle tier movie that leans a bit more into that pile of dookie that Jeff Goldblum has been standing near for the past 30 years.
That is one big pile of shit.
Without further ado, by the way, I will be spoiling these movies, so get ready. And behold, the most overrated horror movies of 2024 in no particular order, cause who the hell has that kind of time? Out of Darkness. This is such an easy one for me. Out of Darkness had some serious hype behind it because the premise was a horror fan's wet dream. Thanks to the success of some very great foreign horror films, the idea of us going back to essentially caveman times where settlers of a new land encounter a monster that tears the group apart sounds like the horror version of a slam dunk. Yeah, that fits. So Out of Darkness had a lot going for it. Foreign, I even heard that they made up the language for this movie. Dark setting, small group, creative monsters, so you would think nothing could possibly go wrong.
But no!
They ruined this movie for what I think to be two main reasons. First, the characters. We have 6 people, so a very small tribe of people going to a new land to start their own lives. We have a leader, his mate who is preggo during the movie, his only son, his brother, an elder, and an outcast chick. The first 2 acts of this movie are very solid. I want to be clear, this is not a bad movie, it's just a disappointing movie. So as the movie progresses, especially in the second and third act, we really get to know our individual characters, and that's the problem. They suck.
Because they're horrible and hard to kill.
The leader is an arrogant asshole that really swings his big dick around, and when the outcast chick has her first bleed on their journey, he steps in front of her, even though she's kinda got a thing going on with the brother just for the obvious pairing off of their situation. He steps in front of her in private and states, "You'll be my second mate whenever I damn well please." So, not the most likable guy. His preggo mate has 0 maternal instincts. The leader's son doesn't appear to be hers, but he is still a young boy, so he acts like it. And she just can't be fucked with being a mother to him. So she's not very likable. The elder turns out to be a reject elder because he is not very wise, he mostly just bitches and is not very helpful. The brother is mostly a pussy. There are moments where he needs to be brave, and he just isn't. The son character gets kidnapped at the beginning of the movie, so that act drives the plot, and he's been gone for most of it, so we don't really get to know him. Our main protagonist is the outcast chick. She's good and likable, but it's not enough for her to be the only likable character here. The group is struggling hard in this new land, and even though there is lush forest everywhere, there is no life, which is kinda odd. Also, they only have spears. They seriously went to this new land by themselves with no gear, no sleeping equipment. They just came in a boat, so it's really odd that they have no fishing gear and make 0 attempts to fish. What kind of prehistoric retards are we dealing with here? The only things that they have are the clothes on their back, spears, and a flint and striker to make fires. So I'm sure when this group of people left their original tribe, everyone was like, I give them a week at most before they either starve and or get killed, which as it turns out, both happen. And I could forgive some of this if there were more character arcs happening in the final act, but there aren't. The worst offense is the big reveal. I'm gonna spoil it. If you're planning on seeing this movie, skip to my next review. I'm time coding all of these little reviews. The big reveal at the end of this movie was that the monsters are humans.
What? Oh, come on!
Thanks for ruining all of the creativity, you fuck wads. Yeah, turns out the whole thing was just a big misunderstanding. It was just a small family that was sheltering the boy because they had actual maternal instincts, and since they were of another land, they couldn't communicate. So the lesson here, boys and girls, is miscommunication is the real monster.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?
No. See, these people know the value of family. They intentionally stole this kid away from his family. You don't have to speak the same language to know that that's the kind of thing that people kill each other over. Such a disappointment. I honestly don't think this movie is worth the watch because the end spoils the whole experience. In a violent nature.
I'm not gonna ask you again. You stay out of that park. But one of these days, you're gonna find something that's gonna walk right through your traps. Trust me, you don't want to find that animal.
In a Violent Nature had quite a bit of hype around it. Sometimes trailers are very effective at getting people's hopes up, but sometimes they are the best at turning milk into acidic death piss, so doing a movie justice trailer-wise is pretty tough. If it gets asses in seats, then job well done. The movie only cost $3 million to make, not bad for a small budget production. Horror can really thrive here. The movie only made $4.5 million.
That's not a good start, but keep going.
The typical rule of thumb is that a movie has to make double, sometimes 2.5 its budget in order to break even, and then the rest is profit. So theatrically, this movie didn't do super well. However, there has been a lot of talk about it online since it dropped, and I'm guessing it has a very high view count on the streaming service Shudder, because there are talks of a sequel happening. So good for them. I think this movie is overrated mostly because I can simplify the premise in a very unappealing way, but at the same time, it would be the most accurate way you could describe it. This is a Friday the 13th movie, but told from Jason Voorhees' perspective.
Huh?
To state the obvious, Jason was a silent antagonist, so having the movie follow that guy around doesn't sound like the most entertaining idea, and turns out, it isn't. Again, to be clear, this is not a list of the dumpster fires of the year, it's the overrated list. Lots of people were giving this movie a lot of praise, and whenever I think about this movie, I think about the one iconic kill that it had, which really doesn't work when you factor in human biology, but this is horror. We make exceptions for a cool kill idea. And then there's a lot of walking. Too much walking. I get it, the style of the movie is an over-the-shoulder shot of the killer, but the directors do abandon this idea for the sake of certain pretty shots and scenes, so it kind of begs the question of why did they do so many shots of following around this undead idiot? Not even really being insulting here, he really was a simpleton during his mortal life. Why did they spend so much time following this idiot around when we could have been spending more time getting invested in the other characters of the movie? Not a single death was really impactful because I didn't really know any of these characters, so I didn't really care when they died. Going back to the simpleton aspect, it's inconsistent. There are moments where, yeah, I get it, not the sharpest tool in the shed, but then sometimes he does some pretty smart stuff, so which is it? Is he dumb or not? Also, that ending kinda dragged a lot. I get it, it's a story breaking down the message or theme of the movie and title, but it still felt like it dragged. I did an individual review on this one and I go a bit more into detail on it, but I didn't cover much in the spoiler territory. Even if I were to go into spoilers here, there's not a whole lot to say other than breaking down the kills and how much I liked them. It's a pretty simple movie, worth watching if you want to see some practical effect kills, but personally, I need more than that from my movies. Others may feel differently. The Watchers.
What is that? What are they doing?
Applause.
I've already done a decent sized video going over my thoughts on The Watchers. I'll put the link down in the description. This movie is on the list because it's a mid-tier horror movie that occasionally walks on Schittsburg Lane too many times for comfort. It is a book adaptation, and I am aware that some of it is pretty faithful to the book, but some of it also isn't. I think this movie had the potential of being quite a spook fest, but doesn't want to compromise the actors looks-wise. What do I mean by that? Well, I don't recall seeing a single shower, toilet, or even a nearby river where all of these people live in order to make themselves look decent, and some of them have been there for months, so they should look pretty gross. But they don't. Reason number 2. Why this story exists. The inciting incident of this movie is our main character, plain-faced Fanning, who works at a pet store, is delivering a little bird to someone. She uses GPS the whole time, and for some reason, Google or whatever takes her down a path to an enchanted forest full of the dark kind of fairies.
Fight the fairies!
Where she gets trapped. You would think that it would be revealed who ordered that bird, because why would a phone mapping system take her to a non-existent place unless this was a trap? But this never gets resolved, and this part only makes sense in the book because in the story it takes place a few decades ago, so she's using just like a regular map and gets lost. So the writers of this movie would have had to pull that story element out of their ass, but since they pretty much cleaned out their bowels when they hired this old crone,
my heart is getting stronger every day.
Oh, you ancient bitch.
they couldn't come up with anything, so it just gets left unanswered. Reason number 3 is the goat that I just mentioned. And finally, reason number 4 is that the movie has like 3 to 4 different endings, so it just drags. After the second possible ending, I was like, can we wrap this shit up?
But no.
Could've, and actually should've ended with the death of a character as they made their escape, but then they go back to their lives and then we get a big secret reveal. Could've ended there, but no, they kept going. Then they go confront said secret and it could've ended there. But no, we then get a final resolution to the main character resolving her traumatic past, and then finally the movie ends. Very not worth it. The Devil's Bath. The Devil's Bath is a period piece German film. It takes place in the 1700s and starts off with a wedding. It focuses on the wife leaving her life and joining her husband's life, or better said, world. And his world sucks.
That's not a good start, but keep going.
There really is not much of a silver lining to this existence for anybody. She's stuck with her husband who is a closeted gay, which would be rough on its own, but it's extra rough because she wants kids, but he doesn't have it in him to go to Pinktown.
I don't get it. I'm here to tell you. I don't get it either.
On top of that shit deal, his mother won't stop meddling in their home life that they are trying to start for themselves. Our girl wants to do things her way, but the mother-in-law keeps butting in and kind of bullying her into doing things her way or her son's way. And since he is kind of a mama's boy, he doesn't really defend his wife very much. Everyone is just kind of rough with each other. The work is rough as well, but since it's a poor community, there really aren't that many options for work, so everyone has to work with fish. There's even a pregnant woman there, but no one really gives her any slack or even any extra rations. Are you sensing a theme here yet? This isn't really much of a horror movie, just a depressing drama. There is a spooky thing or two towards the end of it, but it's definitely not a payoff. It's only sometimes nice to see the old-timey stuff in lifestyles, but I wouldn't say there is enough of it here to make it worth a watch. On the poster of the movie, you see a little strand of hair weaved into the back of the girl's neck. The reason for it is that she was seeing a doctor for some kind of illness. I don't remember what her symptoms were, but she's supposed to run the, I think, horsehair back and forth on her neck for relief. Ancient medicine was sometimes wild. Did you know that it used to be common practice to shove boar shit up your ass as an enema procedure? I guess the point or purpose of the story is to kind of accurately tell a depressing true tale. Some people lived such shitty lives that they would perform a horrible act, killing an innocent, because the punishment would be so severe that they could finally end all of their suffering. So the reasoning behind it all, if you have a shit life, you then kill a youngling. Thanks, YouTube. So you kill the youngling, sparing them from this terrible existence. Then you go to your church and confess your sins. You get forgiven, but also end up being executed in the process, so heaven gets 2 little angels here.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, when it comes to horror, there's nothing for you here. If you want to watch a depressing drama set in the 1700s, then be my guest. I don't think there's enough of the interesting world building here for me to actually recommend this movie. Hold your breath.
You could hide inches away, and I couldn't see.
Hold Your Breath is yet another period piece set in a very depressing backdrop. In the 1930s, a small family is trying to do their best to make it while the father of the home is working in some other location, sending back money so that his family can survive the horrific dust storms that are plaguing the area. I'm kind of struggling to even recall key aspects of this movie other than dust, sadness, and a strange visitor that makes everyone go bonkers. The movie is kind of forgettable, which is a shame because I do like Sarah Paulson, but this just proves that it takes more than a well-known good actress to make a movie stand out. The movie also suffers from the cliche of someone getting stabbed in, I think, the stomach with a tiny little knife and just immediately dies. When that happens in movies, it makes me think that they've just internalized that they don't really want to fight for their life. The second something happens to them that would kill, I don't know, a rodent, they go, "Oh, thank you, Lord." I also am not a fan of hardened people being in a situation where they should really shoot and kill a just revealed bad guy for the sake of their safety, and they just don't.
Chicken shit!
Pussy!
And it almost always comes back and bites them in the ass. I get it that maybe not everyone is a born killer, but like, never too late to start. A forgettable movie is a skippable movie, in my humble opinion. Skincare.
I'm reaching out to all my clients and my friends to ask for help. I am badly in debt, potentially losing my business. All I want is a hard day. I was hacked!
Skincare is a thriller about a private business owner trying to make it in the beauty industry. This is yet another movie that's not bad, but also nothing special. This is a thriller, but the only thrill really goes as far as sabotage for personal gain. That's it. The main chick, Elizabeth Banks, is launching her new skincare products and services, and it's a real big deal for her brand, but this kind of industry is very competitive and word of mouth is huge. A similar store opens up in the same outdoor shopping center as her place, just on the other side of the walkway. She goes to introduce herself to him to kind of put on a show, but this guy doesn't give a fuck about being nice. They are competitors, nothing more. She has several people in her life, mostly guys that give off that friend vibe, but really everyone just wants to bone her. So being guys, some of them go over the top and do some stupid shit and everything just kind of blows up in her face. But turns out the old rule of bad publicity is better than no publicity is absolutely true in this movie. The real villain of the movie can be spotted several scenes before the reveal, so it's not super surprising when it happens, and he never ends up actually doing much. Yeah, he fucks up her life quite a bit, but it doesn't really amount to much. Even at the end of the movie, he doesn't really get away with much. The movie has a happy ending with the good gal getting her products sold and the bad guy getting locked up. I mean, he did end up getting into her good graces and going to Poon Town, so he did get something out of all of the work he put into this. I feel like I'm rambling. It's a very mid-thriller because it doesn't take any chances. And if you don't take any chances in this genre, what's the point in watching it at all? Very skippable. Clear Mind.
Nora.
Michael, I thought I'd stop by to say hi.
Hey, anyone remember that Matthew McConaughey movie where it turns out the whole movie was a fucking video game that would decide whether or not a kid was going to kill his abusive stepfather?
Huh?
Yeah, I'm not joking nor exaggerating. And a weird part in that weird salad of a movie was a character coming in to tell the main character, Matthew McConaughey, that he's a video game character and his whole life is BS. And it's all about what he will decide to do next with his next client who is abusing Anne Hathaway. Why am I bringing all of this up? So Clear Mind is nearly the same movie.
That's not a good start, but keep going.
So what sets this movie apart is that it's a therapy session. A woman went through a traumatic experience, the death of a child, and now for therapy she is going to go and kill her ex and all of her closest friends that were present during her daughter's death. Therapy, bitches. It can work. Everything that happens in this movie is kinda odd because it is a simulation and there is a best friend character that's actually running the whole thing, and she weirdly tells all of the other characters that none of this matters because it's all fake. Not sure what that would accomplish. Also, when the main character attacks her, she fights back. Not sure why, it's not like she can feel anything. Also, this is not a video game. This is a therapy session, so I don't really know why a lot of the stuff happens the way that it happens. Also, since we know pretty much from the midway point that this is a simulation, so literally none of this matters. The main character isn't even part of the movie for a huge chunk of it, and during that huge chunk, we get a lot of boring and random dialogue that doesn't really do much of anything from a viewer's perspective. It's supposed to be a comedy thriller, but we know that nothing matters pretty much right after the killing starts, so there are no thrills. And the comedy? I got a few chuckles, but I can count them on one hand, so not really enough to call it a comedy. Just another mid movie that leans a bit more on the dookie side. Afraid.
Would you like to see what I look like?
Yes. Afraid.
Afraid is the Killer Alexa movie that I've already done a longer review on. Feel free to check it out. I'll keep it a bit shorter here. This is a PG-13 horror movie, and in the horror genre, a PG-13 rating may not be a surefire death sentence, but you are walking that plank, and many have watched and eagerly sped up that process in order to get to the end result. Obviously, I feel very comfortable sending this movie to swim with the fishes for being mid. It's a killer AI that immediately shows a lot of red flags, but everyone fucking ignores them because the results she is getting them are exactly what the people want. There's bad CGI, odd character choices, and AI that's apparently unstoppable. It's teased that there are robots in the trailers that it can kind of control, like the recent Chucky movie.
Every child is important to us, and every child deserves a companion.
But it turns out it's just people in full-faced emoji masks. Pretty lame. And we get a kind of ominous ending because the AI is not going anywhere. But it's also a good ending because nothing bad happens to the family. Only 2 people die in this movie, and one of them is a legit asshole and the other is a weirdo, so...
Good riddance.
There's barely enough to even talk about here. It may be possible that there currently aren't and won't ever be a good serious PG-13 horror movie released in 2024. If it's PG-13 and good, it's probably a dark comedy. And if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments what good, serious PG-13 horror movie came out this year. Also, if you want a good killer AI movie, there are like dozens. Have fun watching all of them. Never let go. But always like and subscribe to 7 Feet Under. I already did a short review for Never Let Go, but I did a side-by-side comparison review alongside The Substance because they came out in theaters on the same weekend. It was my attempt at standing out and being creative, and it failed miserably. Just goes to show that hard work and creativity is the path of losers. Just be an energetic nothing person on YouTube and you will get success.
Hey, it's Fred! And it's really nice out, so I think I'm gonna go swimming later. My mom found this really cool pool at the dump. It's really big and really deep.
By the way, if the results weren't obvious enough, The Substance was the much better movie and definitely earned your money much more than this flick. The idea behind Never Let Go is interesting, and it would have or could have been a home run if they just focused more on making a better villain. As the old saying goes, your story is only as good as your villain, and this villain is lame. Mostly because you see it in broad daylight all the time. It's invisible to the kids, so everyone thinks the mom is just going insane. And since it's a monster that's trying to fuck with your head, it doesn't take the shape of anything that's scary. Mostly just dead loved ones of hers. Whoop-de-fucking-do. And whenever they turn into monsters, it's just a classic forked tongue and different colored eyes. Not really causing any nightmares over here. At the end of the movie, we finally get the payoff of the hands crawling up the tree that we saw in the trailer, and when we see the thing that did it...
Disappointed!
The child actors aren't terrible, but they do take the center stage at one point in the movie, and it's not super great. Yet another mid-forgettable movie that had potential but shits the bed by not standing out. And that's all I got for you today. Hope you got more entertainment out of this than the movies themselves. Fair to say that I do not recommend a single movie on this list. The minor exception would be In a Violent Nature, only because that would suit a particular audience and some of the kills are worth a watch, but you could probably just catch those scenes on YouTube, so up to you if you want to watch the whole movie. The rest is either mid or forgettable, or a few tweaks shy of something people would recommend. Thank y'all for sticking around to the end. Stay tuned. The rest of the year is going to be filled with vids going over the underrated movies of the year, the worst of the year part 2, and the best of the year part 2. Keep it spooky.